Rex here, King of Awesomeness, with another chapter of Battle of the Bands, where we get to see our rock heroes arrive to prepare for a headbanging concert at the Snail Theater. Do the Nightriders have their instruments? Check. Do they have their equipment? Check. Do they have themselves? Double check. But, do they have a concert? I'll just let you listen to the chapter and see this train wreck unfold for yourselves. And with that foreboding introduction out of the way, here is Battle of the Bands audio video part 2.
After a few wrong turns, the band finally managed to find their way to the Snail Theater. It was an old brick building, and a lighted billboard of a giant blue and green neon snail hung over the front. While the snail was far from being extravagant on the level of the Ostrich Opera House, it was a large building reputedly having an auditorium large enough to house well over 3,000 fans. It had been constructed alongside many other theaters during the height of Beach City's economic boom 100 years ago, as evidenced by the building's old-fashioned brick architecture. It was one of many theaters constructed in the city to account for the rise of showbiz, which resulted from many years of prosperity. Despite its size, it was rumored that the theater had been letting itself go in recent years, as suggested by the chip paint on the stair railing. As Axel was studying the front of the building, he noticed that their name was not on the billboard.
"What the heck? Why ain't our names on the sign?"
Lonnie shouted in a state of panic.
"Oh, don't tell me our show's been canceled."
"It hasn't,"
Rolf assured.
"We've been scheduled to perform here for 8 months and have already invested time and money getting out here."
"Well, how about we just talk with the venue manager and see what's going on?"
Axel advised calmly while slipping on his studded leather jacket.
"It could just be a mistake."
Despite his attempts to keep his band comrades from getting ahead of themselves, he could not shake the sick feeling growing in the pit of his stomach. The prospect of their long journey to Beach City being a wasted trip was nearly as unpleasant to him as the thought of having to listen to Rolf's bitter raging for the next few days. After Lonnie parked the van behind the theater, the three headed toward the back entrance. Axel only had to knock a few times before the old wooden door creaked open. A short chubby raccoon wearing a wrinkled gray suit and a red and black tie let out a long sigh. Before even having spoken to him, Axel frowned as a look of dread grew on the raccoon's face, communicating to him without words that they were in for some unpleasant news.
"Oh my, you must be the Nightriders."
"In the flesh,"
Axel confirmed.
"And you are?"
"I'm Mr. Cummings,"
the raccoon answered, grabbing the upper part of his jacket, as if trying to appear high class in his wrinkled suit.
"I am the owner and manager of this venue, and I'm sorry to inform you that your concert has been canceled." "I knew it!"
Lonnie shouted, slapping his leg.
"I'm sorry, but the enormously popular goth metal band Warlocks of Apostasy scheduled a major performance at the city square, which is being televised live tonight. We have had too many cancellations since the announcement of this event and simply have not sold enough tickets to justify me paying you boys."
"Yeah, whatever,"
Rolf scoffed.
"Start unloading the van, guys. Time's a-wasting."
Excuse me?"
Mr. Cummings stuttered nervously. Rolf crossed his furry arms and assumed an intimidating glare. His eyes narrowed and his ears twitched back and forth.
"Listen, Chub, you scheduled us to play a show here, and we spend money on gas and a room. Yes, we are playing a show tomorrow night in your stupid little theater. Now get out of our way!"
Rolf bared his razor-sharp teeth.
"What? Well, if you guys don't leave now, I'll call the police!"
Mr. Cummings shouted. His black-rimmed eyes were wide with fear.
"Knock it off, Rolf,"
Axel said as he stepped in front of him. He forced an awkward smile as he tried to relax the terrified raccoon before him.
"Listen, Mr. Cummings, I'm really sorry for my friend's behavior, but you've got to understand that we're all tired from our long trip here. Can't you at least give us some kind of compensation?"
Mr. Cummings cleared his throat and tried to regain his composure.
Well, I can still treat you guys to pizza. How about that?
A moment of tense silence passed as Axel, Rolf, and Lonnie glared at Mr. Cummings in disbelief. Venues had canceled on them before, but this was just insulting considering they had invested more than 5 hours on the road to a city that was out of the way from their next tour destination. The least Axel would have expected for such a disruption would be money to cover the cost of gas. But he knew for a fact that even the best pizza parlors in Beach City fell short of such a cost. The worst part was the fact that this was not some small gig at a club in a remote town. This was Beach City, the renowned music capital of the world. It was no wonder this theater was reportedly going downhill if this was how they treated their acts.
No thanks.
Axel said, breaking the silence.
Let's get out of this dump, guys.
Axel turned his tail to Mr. Cummings, followed by Lonnie. Rolf, however, continued to glare at Mr. Cummings until the raccoon disappeared behind the closed door. Rolf stood there for a moment, staring at the door before drooping his head and beginning his slow walk back to the van.
Well, what do we do now?
Lonnie asked as he and Axel hopped into the van. Axel plopped down on the back seat and grabbed a soda out of the cooler.
I guess we check into our hotel and hit up a club just like we planned. I mean, what else can we do?
Rolf stormed into the vehicle and slammed the door shut. He drank from his bottle of soda, then threw the bottle onto the floor, shattering it to pieces.
Idiot!
Rolf screamed.
That fat lard! Who does he think he is to turn us away like that? No money but pizza? For real? You know, it wasn't the bottle's fault that our show was canceled.
Lonnie grumbled.
I'm not in the mood for your crap right now, Lonnie.
Rolf huffed. Seeing the need to stop the fight before it escalated any further, Axel said,
I have a great idea. Why don't we forget about our loss tonight and take a little vacation while we're here?
We can't afford a vacation,
Rolf shouted.
The whole reason we're here in the first place is to regain whatever trust and stability we may have lost with the fans.
I know,
Axel replied,
but obviously that's not going to happen tonight, so we might as well enjoy ourselves while we're here and then continue our work on rebuilding the band's success at the next town.
Rolf sat down and buried his head in his hands for a moment.
You guys do what you want. Oh, this is going to be a long night,
Axel thought as he and Lonnie picked up the broken remains of Rolf's bottle. After checking into a place called Happy Hotel, the Nightriders decided to visit a new club in their area called Buzzy's. After a lot of huffing and puffing, Rolf finally agreed to join them. When they entered the building, they heard the latest hit song from Skittles the Rapper blaring from the speakers surrounding the dance floor. Lonnie studied the large empty room.
Is it just me, or does this place feel unusually empty?
Axel observed the dance floor that was all but empty except for a staggering coyote couple and a burly rhino bouncer who seemed extremely bored.
Everybody must be at the big concert at the square,
said Axel. The band sluggishly walked over to the bar and seated themselves on the bar stools. The bartender was a big husky brown bear wearing black slacks and a black vest and tie. With a deep, cheery voice he greeted them.
Good evening, gentlemen. What will you be having?
2 Eggmans for me and my wolf buddy,
Axel said.
Dude, they have snow cones. Can you believe that?
Lonnie hungrily licked his lips. Rolf rolled his eyes in embarrassment.
Really, Lonnie? Why don't you just ask them if they have juice and crackers while you're at it? Hey, there's nothing in the Book of Man that says you can't have a taste for snow cones,
Lonnie replied with a chuckle.
2 Eggmans,
the bartender announced as he set the drinks in front of Axel and Rolf.
And I will take a strawberry snow cone,
Lonnie said as he grinned at Rolf. The bartender changed the channel on the television screen that hung on the wall from a basketball game to the live airing of the concert. An enormous crowd chanted, "Warlocks! Warlocks!" The camera zoomed in on some fans wearing what appeared to be Viking helmets and capes, and they cheered with excitement when they realized they were appearing on live television.
Oh, looks like Halloween came early,
Rolf muttered before taking a sip of his drink.
Pretty much.
Axel nodded in agreement. His long reptilian tongue darted in and out of his drink to taste it. Then he picked up the glass and took a swig.
I've always thought it's disgusting how you do that tongue thing every time you take a drink,
Rolf grumbled.
Why do you do that?
Axel shrugged.
I don't know. It's just what I do.
But is that just something you do, or is it a lizard thing?
Rolf asked.
It's a lizard thing,
Axel confessed before taking another sip.
Strawberry snow cone.
The bartender announced as he placed it in front of Lonnie.
Been too long since I've had one of these,
Lonnie said, entranced with the delicious treat before him. On the television, flames blasted from the stage as the red eyes of the giant skull above blazed with fire. The crowd roared with excitement as pillars of smoke seeped out from the floor. Once the smoke dissipated, a canine figure who looked as though he'd just stepped out of the latest medieval fantasy movie appeared at the center of the stage. He wore a helmet with the devil horns and strangely carved armor, and a black cape fluttered from behind him. His face was almost entirely hidden behind a long beard. He held a large staff with a skull that resembled the giant skull above the stage. Although impressed by the theatrical entrance, Axel found the canine's appearance to be a little over the top.
Does this guy think he's supposed to be the devil or something?
Axel wondered aloud.
That's heathen, I believe,
murmured Lonnie after sipping from his snow cone.
The lead singer of the Warlocks.
Looks like a pleasant fellow,
answered Axel sarcastically.
Tell me about it,
scoffed Lonnie.
That guy gives me the creeps.
Axel observed the rest of the band. To the left of the canine frontman, there was a fierce, shaggy-haired hyena shredding on a red guitar, while a long-haired lion played a bass that resembled an axe. A large brown-furred grizzly bear sat behind a double bass drum set that resembled skulls and bones. All were burly in appearance and dressed like barbarians from a film. None, however, matched the malevolence of the lead vocalist, who carried with him an aura of barbarous rage. Even as Axel and the canine's red glowing eyes met through the TV screen, he felt as if the canine was aware of his presence, and with every note the frontman screamed, it felt as though the rage was meant for Axel. These were silly thoughts, of course, and Axel shrugged it off and took a sip of his drink.
Are you ready for a night in Hell Beach City?
The canine said in a raspy voice. The crowd roared with excitement. The guitars wailed as if they were in pain, followed by chaotic drumming. Then a distorted riff that sounded as if it were emerging straight from hell carried the song. The devil Viking vocalist let out a long scream and began the first verse of the song.
Blood, blood, splatter, splatter, the dreams of unbelievers shattered. Sounds like the lyrics were written by a depressed 13-year-old,
scoffed Rolf.
Yeah, not my cup of tea,
Axel agreed. Rolf pointed at the TV screen.
This is what's wrong with the music industry these days. It's all about trends and outrageous costumes, and not about the music itself. No talent bands like this one have to hide behind their stupid gimmicks because they know their music stinks. I don't know,
Lonnie chimed in, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand.
I have to admit the drummer's pretty mean on that double bass.
Axel grimaced at the sight of the vocalist biting off the head of a chipmunk.
Well, in the end, it's about who can put on a better show. But these guys come off as if they take themselves way too seriously. And that's coming from me, a frontman in a heavy metal band.
Rolf and Lonnie nodded in agreement as they tried to ignore the show on screen and distract themselves with their refreshments.
Whoa! Now that's a band that doesn't play around, especially when their lead vocalist's eyes glow red. Look out, Nightriders. That comeback tour may be easier said than done. But if there is any moral at all to this chapter, don't book your show at a theater called The Snail. I mean, who the heck names their theater after a snail anyways? It makes just about as much sense as a lizard selling car insurance. Tune in next time for Battle of the Bands Part 3. This is Rex, King of Awesomeness, signing out.